up in the studio this afternoon on this brisk Saturday afternoon, of course, as we're bringing in the month of March. And you know the old saying, in like a lion and out like a lamb. And we're happy to be back up in the seat, ready to bring the heat. Let me thank all of you, as I always do at the top of the hour, the top of the show, for your continued support of the State of the City. And you know what to do if you'd like to get a copy of this show or any of our previous shows or the flow. Call 410-878-5298, 410-878-5298. And let me start off, as I always do, by dedicating the show to my brother and friend, Brother Eric Easton, and to his family, for I believe it was around this time a few years ago that our brother made his transition during the month of March. And we're going to hope to have his lovely wife on, Sister Mamie, and his family, and look forward to doing a memorial service for our brothers. We continue to memorialize that brother, but to lift him up, because know that he's gone but not forgotten in terms of his legacy that he's left here for us to follow and to build on. And let me also take this opportunity to dedicate the show to those that are celebrating Women's History Month here in the city of Baltimore, because where would the world be without our women, and where would we be as men without our women? So we lift up our women and those that are celebrating, again, Women's History Month. And last but not least, let me dedicate this show to the program monitor who wrote the letter to the editor to the Baltimore Afro in yesterday's edition, or the current edition of the Baltimore Afro. And let me thank the owners of the Afro, the Oliver family and the Murphy family, and others that may be responsible for printing this letter, which I'll get into later in the show, but it's simply entitled "Appalled at the Larry Young Morning Show." And so you can go and pull this up and read it for yourself. It's not Brother Muhammad that wrote it, but it's from a program monitor in Dundalk, Maryland. And I thank you, and we dedicate the State of the City today to you for that. And let me start off also, before we get into the show, as promised, that we have some special guests that's joining us in the studios, and one that may join us on the line if he's unable to make it into the studio. But I want to start off by thanking my brother and friend Glenn Ford, who joined me yesterday. You know Glenn Ford from Black Agenda Report. I want to thank him for having joined Brother Muhammad on the State of the City yesterday and have an opportunity to talk about black leadership, or black misleadership. So I want to thank Brother Glenn Ford from Black Agenda Report. And as I've always said, that to me, pound for pound, nationally, they are one of the greatest newspapers. One of the greatest newspapers, and what they do and what they present, from in print to what they put out in their commentary, outnumbers many and ashames many of our black news media outlets and white corporate-owned news media outlets as well. So I want to thank Brother Glenn Ford, who joined me yesterday on the State of the City, as he did an in-depth analysis of black leadership, did an in-depth analysis of black leadership and the role of black leadership, or black misleadership. So I want to thank Brother Glenn Ford, and we do have copies of that show, which are available for those that would like to obtain a copy of that show. Then that show, an interview with Brother Glenn Ford from Black Agenda Report, is available. And all you got to do is call 410-878-5298. And speaking of Brother Glenn Ford, he will be in town with us on the 27th of March at the Blacks in Wax Museum. And we're going to open doors at 5 and get started at 6, because that brother has a lot to share with us. Because as you heard him, he is a historian, and he worked for James Brown since the age of 13 at WFBR Radio, and worked with many of the great ones, from P.D. Green to C. Miles to Brother Chuck McCool, who was Chuck Max, and Dorothy Brunson and James Brown, and many more. So he's a historian, and he's a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, and not understanding but overstanding. And we're going to have an opportunity to have a night and an evening with Brother Glenn Ford. Many of you may have seen him in the great debate in Harlem, in which he debated many of our scholars, from Tony Browder to Professor Leonard Jeffries, to Malik Zulu Shabazz from the New Black Panther Party, to several others who were debating, and they were pro-Obama. But Glenn Ford, who knew President Barack Obama when he was Senator Obama, and before that when he was a state senator in Chicago, Illinois. But it was not Obama that they were debating, but the policies and the issues and those around Obama that Glenn Ford knew, and knew very well. And the brother not only did as I knew when many of us saw Brother Malcolm X debate, and even Dr. King debate, but he pressed them, he stressed them, and undressed many of them during that debate. So I just had my love and admiration for that brother, and my respect grew even more.